Hello there, and thanks for joining us for the Farming Today podcast with me, Kaz Graham. In this edition, charcuterie from Wales for festive feasting and the major changes needed to make farming profitable. We hear from Baroness Batters on her long-awaited review.
We face enormous challenges. We have to deliver on making food security, national security, and profitable farming is at the heart of achieving that.
More from Baroness Batters a little later in the programme. First, though, we've been taking a look at historic rural buildings this week, their cultural value and how to preserve them. And this morning, we're heading to Northern Ireland. When a local community group began the restoration of an old corn mill in County Fermanagh, it sparked an interest in a number of old millstones long abandoned on local farms. Most of them were cracked or split and sometimes half submerged in bogs and streams. Local historian Barry Devine did a little digging into these mysterious millstones, and he's uncovered a forgotten industry in rural East Fermanagh. Kathleen Carragher joined him up a mountain.
Now, what about that for a view?
Pretty amazing, yes.
The lakes over there with all the islands.
Barney, we've just climbed up a very steep hill, and at the top a millstone.
You're 1,000 feet up, and yes, absolutely. Here is a 5 feet diameter millstone. When you look at it, you think it's perfect, but no, the top left-hand side, there's a piece missing. It's not a very, very big fracture, but if you look closely, there is a fracture line running right into the heart of it. They reckon it takes 2 men a week to make a rough out like this in the shape of a circular millstone. But can you imagine, maybe on their last day they were thinking, we've got this thing licked, and then one of them chips a chunk out of it. It must have been really, really hard in an environment like this up a mountain.
So how were they made?
This would have been made with hammers and chisels. They also used crowbars to then lever this very rough out away from the parent, the mother boulder. They then laid it on its back, and they, as you can see, they have begun the central eye in this one, but they haven't gone the whole way through. So the break here on the rim must have come before they finished the eye, because there was no point in pursuing it anymore. They then took them off the mountain on what we call a slipe, which is a sledge attached to the horse. And down below was where they finished it. So they would have been made to order, because you couldn't have made these and kept them in the hope that someone would come looking for one. This was probably for a very, very big mill, very far away from here, where they were doing a lot of milling.
The people who were making this, were they also farming?
Yes, absolutely they were. They were using what resources they had. In this case, boulders, sandstone. It was all about maximising your potential to stay on the land. And I suspect work like this, it ensured people didn't have to emigrate until the famine, of course, and then that changed everything. An event that was so overwhelming that this particular artisanal craft, that it's all that we have left of that period.
Barney, we've come back down the hill now and you've taken me to Tally Mill.
The corn mill was built sometime, we think, around 1766. And it operated until just at the end of the Second World War in 1945. And the entrance is wonderful because you can see right away millstones at the gateway. And these were used here in the mill, and there are several of them scattered about. People can come and sit in them, they're planting around them. Wedding photographs have been taken here. And then there's the mill pond, and then at the very, very far end we have the old mill, and we have the hall, and we have tourism houses. Now, all of this was built by Kalesher Community Development Group, and they received funding from the Heritage Fund way back in 2000. Now that we have the wheel and the mill and the restaurant, this is now a thriving community enterprise run by volunteers from the community, and it's a reminder of the whole heritage and history of Tully Mill and the millstones.
Oh, what an interesting story. That's Barry Devine with Kathleen Carragher. Now, there's less than a week until Christmas now, in case you hadn't noticed. And in my book, that is a grand excuse for stocking up on some fine British food. I'll be out at Kendal Farmers Market doing just that a little later this morning, as well as judging most Christmassy stall. Charcuterie is often a favourite over the festive season, which means that this is a busy time of year for Lizzie and Andrew Baker in Ammanford in South Wales. They rear rare breed pigs on their farm, and they have a charcuterie and smoking business too. Marie-Claire Carey-Jones has been to meet them.
So these are Berkshire, so they're one of the heritage breeds, the oldest actually on record apparently, and they're a lovely black pig. They've actually got a white skin underneath, but they're black. They have a white nose and white socks and a little white tip on their tail. That's what makes a good Berkshire pig. The meat is lovely and sweet, and they have a good layer of fat on them as well, which we need for our charcuterie, so they're an ideal pig for us.
And Andrew, how many pigs do you have here at the moment?
We've not got that many now, so we've got about 10 pigs left. We'll start again then at the beginning of next year. We have other people breed them for us, and we buy them in, buy the litters in, rear them up to our specification really. So we like a nice fatty pig, and that's where the flavour is.
And as well as these pigs, you also buy in other meat for your products, but always locally?
Yeah, and we also buy pigs as well. We have other farmers over in West Wales, so they'll breed pigs for us, but we also do beef and lamb as well. And it's good because it gives other farmers a route to market. So pigs is a difficult industry to be in at the moment. There's not a lot of money in it. Pigs are expensive because they eat a huge amount of food, and food prices have gone right up. So for the farmers, having a guaranteed route to market where they know that they're going to have these pigs, rear them up, and they know we're going to buy them, is perfect for them, and it's also perfect for us as well. Come on in. We've got raw meat hanging up there in the cold room, and then we do all the butchering this side, and then it goes through to here, which is the ambient side. This is where now all our salami and air-dried hams are all kind of curing and air drying.
So what's the process then of creating your products?
We butcher it all ourselves on site, and then we mince down for making salamis, and we use some whole mussels as well. So we take those, their specific cuts, we take those and roll those in salt and hang those out for a while. And then we mince down the meat and mix it with herbs, spices, salt, pepper, that sort of thing, and then make salami.
People are much more aware of where their food comes from, what's going into their food, good animal husbandry, and the ingredients and everything that makes it what it is. It's just, it's really important, I think.
So Christmas is the busiest time of year. We go to some winter fairs, and we've got a lot of return customers, and we do a lot of online as well at Christmas. People like to have a nice charcuterie board, very often on Boxing Day people do a cold meat, so that sort of thing is perfect for that, and it's really easy food.
And I'm assuming you and the family will be doing that yourselves this Christmas?
Absolutely, as long as we've got some left.
Lizzie Baker there. It's taken longer than expected to see the light of day, but the Batters review into farm profitability in England has now been published. It's a hefty piece of work put together by Baroness Batters, former president of the National Farmers Union. More than 150 pages long, it has 57 recommendations for the government. It calls for a national plan for farming and a new deal for profitable farming that recognises the true cost of producing food and delivering for the environment. The review was commissioned by the government in April to provide expert opinion on short, medium and long-term profitability, and will be used to inform the upcoming farming roadmap, the food strategy, the land use framework, as well as wider government priorities, including economic growth. And it comes against a backdrop of major challenges for the industry, including uncertainty and confusion about future support schemes for farmers, volatile markets, increased costs, disruption caused by more extreme weather events, and discontent around changes to inheritance tax on farm estates. Well, I've been speaking with Baroness Batters, and she began by setting out her main recommendations.
Well, it starts with a complete recalculation of, does this sector matter? That was the first question that I was asking. Does farming matter? Farming today knows it matters, and I know it matters more than anyone. But does it matter in government? And not just politically, but the machinery of government. Do civil servants in the Treasury really want farming to thrive? And I think the fact that it's been said to me several times over the last few years that farming is 0.6% of our GDP, it really couldn't matter less, speaks to so many of the challenges that we face today, which is why I'm asking for a total recalculation of farming, primary production and primary and secondary processing, but also the allied trades, on-farm recreation, tourism. I mean, in New Zealand, where I did a lot of comparisons, 80% of their value of GDP comes from the allied relationships to farming. And of course, in New Zealand, it's 10% of GDP. So I think that's a fundamental place from which to start. And then, of course, I focus on the importance of managing the supply and demand model, which is critical to agriculture. You know, we are going to be importing more. We will need to be exporting more. So we've really got to have a joined up approach to retail, to out of home, to procurement, and increasing our exports 30% by 2030.
This review is about a long-term plan, a long-term vision. But for many farmers, it's the short term that's the absolute priority because they haven't been able to sign up for schemes like the Sustainable Farming Incentive. How does the Sustainable Farming Incentive need to change? And will your recommendations be informing the version of it that DEFRA have said that they're going to open up in the spring?
Well, I was absolutely adamant from day one that we have to open up the SFI scheme for applications as soon as possible for the 50% of farmers that aren't in it. I also think we should embed the active farmer principle so that this funding is going to those that are actively farming. I also think that we must be linking it to food production and not just environmental crops. We can deliver nature in the field. I make the case for a privately funded SFI scheme because if we want to keep the family farm structure that we have at the moment, we have to be able to have for the average family farm a level of earnings that equates to 34,500 if we are going to be on a same level playing field as median household earnings.
There's been a lot of reaction to the review, much of it pretty positive. But WWF, the Worldwide Fund for Nature, says it's disappointing that there is so little in it on climate change and nature loss. How comfortably does farm profitability sit alongside nature restoration?
I don't see how they can say that. We can deliver nature through pulses. We can deliver nature through oilseeds. Benefit for pollinators. I talk about a world-leading commercial science project to dry pelletize our nutrients, develop green fertilizers, build our soil health. We cannot keep focusing on either or. I have set out from the beginning to restore balance between sustainable food production and the environmental delivery. We cannot do that without farmers, and there's got to be a hard recognition that we need to establish a model that will pay for it.
Baroness Batters, this review has been released the very last day the government could release it before the parliamentary term ends, along with numerous other things as well. No time for questions. The Lib Dem say it's been sneaked out. How do you feel about the way it's been published?
Look, it's frustrating, but it's been published. The main thing that matters now is that it's acted upon and it's not cherry-picked. So I've given the government 2 years to establish a new way of working, and that's what matters. And it also matters that we get cross-party support. We cannot keep dragging farmers on and off this road. We need to get on the 25-year farming roadmap. We have 69.7 million people on an island. We face enormous challenges from extreme weather events and a horrific and ongoing war in Europe. We have to deliver on making food security, national security, and profitable farming is at the heart of achieving that. So that there is not time, quite frankly, to kick the can down the road. We really do need to see a step change.
That's Baroness Batters. And that's it from us for this morning. I'm Kaz Graham. The producer is Beatrice Fenton, and Farming Today is a BBC Audio Bristol production.